to figure out why my agenda wasn't looking right. I was still on last week's.
Guys ready?
It's 5 o'clock.
The meeting of the Board of Ellis County Commissioners will now come to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bobby, if you could call the roll.
Commissioner Dean Hazelhorst,
Present.
Commissioner Chair Butch Schleier,
Present.
Commissioner Neil Younger.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Order of business, I think we will have one executive session this evening. Okay. Prior minutes, February 1st, did you commissioners get to review those? Any concerns?
Looks
Not
good.
at all.
Okay, and the minutes will stand as submitted. Do I hear a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through G.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes 3-0. A monthly financial report. Did you guys get to review that? Any issues from persons not on the order of business tonight? Okay, no one's jumping around here. Okay, our first agenda item is the Employee Service Awards. Janet?
Hello, I'm Janet Schmidt. I'm the HR generalist here, and every year we recognize our employees at 5 years, 10, 15, et cetera, and so forth. KAC also recognizes at 8, 16, 24, so we kind of mixed them all together this year. If the commissioners would like to come up and hand out the awards, I do have hand sanitizer there, so if you want to shake hands, you can sanitize afterwards. So we start with 5 and move on, so five-year awards, the employees get a $20 check, and they got a choice of a hat or a scarf. So from the Treasury Department, we have Mary. She is not here. Sharon Honeyman from the Clerk's Office. Kevin Haynes, EMS. Cody Nyblock from EMS. Dennis Johnson, Public Works. Look like he's here. Charles McGinnis from Public Works. All right. Darren. I did say him. Is he here? Darren, you're next.
Thank you.
Amanda Shannon from the Treasury Department. She couldn't make it. Her daughter's in the spelling bee today. Casey Hammond from the Treasury Department. And then myself. Thank you. Let's see here. Follow this. this around. Caleb Garner from Public Works. And I have a lot of firefighters who have 5 years. Jacob Mice, Dylan Kuhn, Trevor Stipe, Ivan Robles, Eric Haas, Sean Bird, Monty Boydston, Ronald Julian, Eric Schmidt, and John Kistner. Okay, we have the 8-year KAC Awards. There's just a certificate. Adam Como from EMS, Pam Fonestill, Register of Deeds, Charles Gibson from the Sheriff Department, Amber Lang, Environmental Services, and Kevin Kraus from Public Works. Okay, we'll move on to the 10-year. The 10-year get a $25 check and a throw. So we have Brian Shannon, and he's probably not here because his daughter's at the spelling bee. John Waltz. He's hiding. Well, maybe we'll be coming.
I think the former sheriff's running up. With his lost sheep.
Okay, we'll skip on. We'll go to Laura Liker from the Health Department.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Dean, you have been here 10 years. Can you believe that?
It was just like yesterday. Maybe the day before. Thank you, Butch. Neil?
I don't know where John is. Did you find him? Okay. We'll come back to him. Okay, 15 years. They receive a the Ellis County 15 years, there's a polo and a $30 check. Garrett Brenning from the Sheriff's Office. And then I have quite a few firefighters that have been here 15 years. Scott Welbrock, Wesley James, Dustin Vine, and Tim Colress. Okay, then we go on to the 16 years for the KAC Awards. There, at 16 years, you get a certificate, and then there, if anybody's here, there's a little pin for 16 years there also. Kay Rohr, Environmental Services. Rhonda Keener from the Attorney's Office. Tabitha Dinas from the Sheriff's Office. Charlene Holzmeister, Attorney's Office, and Michael Weber, Appraiser. Now, it's the other side. There we go. At 20 years, they get an extra day off and a $35 check. And we have Joe Wilkerson from Public Works, Scott Reese, EMS, And KAC Awards again, 24 years. We have Dave Biddle, EMS. Chris Brungart, Public Works. And Brad Rickey from the Sheriff's Office. 25-year award. We have Destin Schubert. He received a jacket, $40 check, and an additional paid day off. Yes.
Thank you, thank you.
And 30 years, Lisa Ree, appraiser. She received a clock, $45 check, and a paid day off. And then I have 35 years with the fire department, Kevin Beaker. And last but not least, I do have somebody here who has retired with Ellis County for 40 years. That would be retired Sheriff Ed Harbin, 40 years. Congratulations. Huh?
Do I get a couple of days off?
You can have the rest of your life off. We will.
Sheriff, turn around here so we can get a picture with you three. All right? Smile pretty. Thanks.
Yeah. John, if you want to come back up here, we do have something for you. Thank you very much. Good catch. They've got something here for you.
All right, okay. Well, thank you. Thanks, Joe. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, Scotty. Did you see that smile?
I did.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's it. Thank you, everybody. Pretty good. Didn't lose too many names. Huh?
I cleared it out.
Did I say?
Says Brian Shannon on there, but there's Chapman.
It might be
Brian
up at-
Shannon's questions.
Okay, our next agenda item is the Big Creek edition. Darren?
I can carry that up if you like.
I'll get it. I got some.
Good evening, Commissioner. Darren Myers, Interim County Administrator. Tonight before you is our, the next step in the Big Creek Estates Edition. I believe Mr. Prey is here. And we've had multiple discussions over this over the last couple of months in regards to the plat out there just to the southeast of Hayes. And at the November and December meetings, you kind of create a list of items that, from the Public Works Director, that he would like to see fixed or updated to the commission. Just to clarify, one was a traffic study, which at that time the plat showed the north-south road identified as intersecting with Reservation Road. Since that, in their final plat design, that does not include that intersection anymore. So the traffic study was still completed in regards to the three other intersections at the Reservation Road. That cost will be burdened by the Ellis County, as those are a traffic study that we wish to be conducted to place stop signs. The second item was the right-of-way for the different plats, or the different for the road going to the south, all the way down to Reservation Road, the commission requests that he did have right-of-way for that, which Mr. Prey did present to the commission, as well as the drainage study to kind of help eliminate any concerns that there would be any flooding for the existing landowners in that development out there. As you can see tonight within your packet, the drainage study, as well as the plats, the dedication, and the resolution all are included. The drainage study shows that the proper amount and sized culvert will remove the amount of water that is in that development, and the Public Works Director has also reviewed that and believes that it is sufficient. And Mr. Prey has also provided the commission that he will build the roads to county specifications. Except for the bottom south line, they will be maintained, except for the little bottom cul-de-sac on there. Everything else will be county maintained. The one discussion that Brendan and myself had with there he is, we had with him, and he may want to come up to speak, but the far north part of that intersection, there's a partial cul-de-sac in there, and our Public Works Department does not have the equipment to be able to properly maintain a cul-de-sac. And we've had that discussion with Mr. Prey, and he's fully aware that we'll only be able to make a southbound turn heading east, as well as northbound going back to the west to maintain, just as if it was a right-angled curve or a corner. We won't be able to maintain that full cul-de-sac corner, and he is fully aware of that, and that does not impact his development. So we wanted to make sure that that was within the minutes, and everything else I think I have discussed, so I would stand for questions, or if Mr. Prey wanted to add anything.
Okay, I would like to hear from Mr. James Graham. He had something to say about this issue.
If Mr. Prey would like to go first, I
Okay.
yield.
No.
I think that's what I need.
Yep.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for your time and the opportunity to speak in front of you today. My name is James Graham, 2217 Clay Drive in Hayes. First off, I'd like to thank you, like I said, for the time today. As you consider this proposal, I'd like you to think about 6 points. And these are points that I feel make this development and replat I guess not feasible for the area. So first off is the road situation. Now as you've mentioned, the original discussion included a road going all the way down to Reservation Road, right, to divert traffic from the new constructed houses. You've also talked about drainage issues. There's also the issue of splitting an existing lot out there in the area. You'll be forcing, or Mr. Prey is asking for a new covenant on that lot, which is already under a current covenant. And not all of the lots that are in the replat were subject to the rezoning proposal sent before the Planning Commission back in November. And finally, there's also an environmental impact that must be considered. In regards to the roads, like I say, the initial proposal was to make a road, north-south road, go all the way to Reservation. That would be maintained by the county, right, built to their specifications. Since then, that has obviously changed, and the design has gone back to a cul-de-sac. This will force traffic down the existing roads of Clay and Southview out through Big Creek and Logan Road's exits. If you consider that there's going to be 9 to 13 additional houses in there, that is upwards of, as each house is required to have a 2-car garage, be safe to say then that each house is going to have 2 cars. So that's 26 new cars going back and forth to work every day. That's 52 times additional increase in traffic, or 52 additional vehicle traffic on those roads. is the county going to be able to maintain Clay and Big Creek Drive in their current form? I appreciate the efforts that our Public Works does now. I know they have a lot of miles to maintain with a limited budget, but unfortunately, those roads don't hold up to the current amount of vehicles out there. There's also talk about control measures. The design called for control measures at the major intersections of the minor roads, meaning Logan, Josephine, and Big Creek onto Reservation Road. However, there is a uncontrolled four-way stop or four-way intersection at the corner of Clay and Logan Drive, and there's also a T intersection at the corner of Logan and Southview. Those were not in this proposal for control measures. If you add that extra 52 vehicles every day going through that four-way stop, the chances of an incident go up dramatically. In regards to the drainage issue, the Driggs Design Report finds that the runoff will flow to the south and to the east. They also mention that in a 50-year event, that would be at 6 CFS. This water will flow into the revised Ellis County floodplain and can have adverse effects to upstream residents. There is a trailer park to the north of this development. If this water gets backed up, will that water now be forced north? We also know that it flows into Big Creek, goes down through Reservation Road. The current culvert situation on Reservation Road is inadequate as it is. We have a number of events over the last 3 years where Reservation Road has been closed for several days due to flooding. These events lead those residents with only one way in and one way out in case of emergency. I do have some pictures that I'd like to present to the commissioners if you would like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I apologize for the fact that they are dark. They were obviously taken at night. At the time, one never knew that they may be needed for a presentation, but so my question is, now if this water flowing at 6 CFS goes to the south and to the east, right, besides falling into that floodplain, which stretches all the way back up past Home Depot, will Reservation Road become flooded and inoperable again? My third point is the splitting of an existing lot. There is a lot within the proposed plat, Lot 3, Block 7, and that is also in your packet. This lot is also known as 410 Logan Drive. This lot currently falls under the existing Big Creek Estates covenant on file here at the courthouse. That covenant is in your packet as well, too. That covenant, you will notice in subsection B, line 14, states that no lots shall be subdivided further within the development. This covenant also expresses that if one violation of the covenant occurs, all other parts are still intact. That is in subsection D3. Since no lots have been subdivided at this time, right, this section, I feel, is still enforceable. If it is not enforceable, then why did Mr. Prey make an effort to put it into his proposed covenant as well, too, where no further lots of his development can be subdivided? My fourth point is replatting of these now new lots, and especially that lot 3, Block 7, okay, forces a new covenant onto a lot that already has a covenant in place. There are similarities between Mr. Prey's proposed covenant and the existing one, but the new covenant of Mr. Prey's is more restrictive and is being asked to supersede an existing lot, or an existing one. My question is, will then the neighboring lots also be forced to join into that covenant as well? As far as the rezoning goes, at a November 16th, 2020 meeting, a proposal was discussed to rezone a tract of land east of Big Creek Estates. This lot was asked to be rezoned from AL to residential, but at that time, there was no mention to rezone Lot 3. I've also included the proposal, the rezoning proposal that was approved in that packet as well, too. So at this time, Mr. Prey is asking for you to rezone lots, or a lot, or not even rezone, right? Replat a lot that has not been approved for rezoning. And finally, in aspects to the environment, I feel that that development within this area will be detriment to the environment in the neighboring area. There will be a loss of habitat for both turkey, pheasant, and deer. Since the airport has now a complete fence around it, right, a lot of those creatures have been forced to the east and do not have access to other lands. There's also the increased runoff, which has been noted. If this water is allowed to flow down into that tributary and into Big Creek, what will that do to soil erosion, and what will that do to water contamination? These lots, as they're being developed, will sit barren, right? So that water, a heavy rainfall event, could force heavy soil erosion down into Big Creek. Once they are developed, and you have residential areas there and lawns, will the water runoff now force household contaminants down into Big Creek? There's also the issue of water wells in the area. With 13 new water wells in a 7.5 acre area, there's also already 37 wells within an adjacent 19 acre area. If quick math, that shows that about a 35% increase in water wells in domestic use. Fortunately, that area sits on a good chunk of water in the area. There's a good formation there. But saying that there's enough water for additional development can also be misleading. Just because an area is known to have a good water formation does not guarantee that there's enough water for the existing wells. We know that flow is from the northwest to the southeast, and you put more wells in to the south and to the east, you will impact those upstream. Saying that this also sits in a formation with hundreds of other domestic wells can also be misleading. If we consider the fact that Sherman and Thomas County has irrigated land that sits over the Ogallala Aquifer, the same as those farmers in Stafford and Pawnee counties, their water is completely different. The wells out west are going dry. So in conclusion, like I say, I would like you to consider all of these points. Please consider the roads, the drainage issues, the impact to existing lots, the new covenants and a proposed HOA to existing lots, the question about the zoning for a lot, and environmental aspects. I want it to be known that I want to see Ellis County and Hayes grow. I think it's a great place to live, a great place to raise a family. I do feel, however, that this is not the place for development to occur. I think that there's plenty of other more suitable locations that can be found. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Graham, I have a question for you. Yes, sir. Have you brought these concerns up earlier have you brought these concerns up earlier?
Yes, sir. I spoke at the Planning Commission on November 16th.
What did the Planning Commission tell you?
They listened to the concerns. It was a split decision,
Okay.
so, yep.
Mr. Prey, do you have anything to say regarding these issues?
Hello, Adam Prey. I've got James Mice, and then I may even have Tom come up here. Thanks for having me again. I will say I did reach out to all the residents of the homes out there. We've emailed them. We attempted to have a meeting. We've met. I think I had 3 show up. Mr. Graham was not one of them. I've never heard any concerns from him since we started, other than the Planning Commission, which, if I remember, was not a split decision. Only one voted against it. Some of the ones I can answer, the reason we didn't rezone Lot 3, it's already zoned, so there's no need to rezone a lot that's already zoned. Wildlife, I've never seen any wildlife on there. I'm not saying they don't live there. I'm a pretty avid pheasant hunter. I'd be shooting birds out there if there was any out there. Assuming that was legal. I'm going to let Mr. Mice here talk about the drainage, and then as far as water goes, we've had several professionals look at it, and from what I understand, you could put quite a few homes out there and not touch the water level. It sits on a very good water level, and I'd offer that information to anybody who wanted it. Main person I talked to was Keith Fonestill with Fonestill, so. James, if you want to talk about the drainage, I think that would be great.
Yeah, Adam, just real quick,
Yes, sir.
referencing back to Lot 3, you said it's already zoned,
Yes, sir.
but under the covenant, does it say that you can split that lot out?
Under those covenants, and again, I'll probably have Tom speak to that. And, yeah, Tom could better answer that for you.
There are two, and Bill can chime in here, obviously. There are two different, Tom Wassinger, by the way. Two different issues here. One is splitting a lot that's already been platted. Generally, what we're talking about there is taking, like saying, here, let me give you an example. You take this lot here, and you drive it, you put a line in the middle of it, split it into 2 lots. That is what most everybody, I think, that's involved with real estate would consider splitting a lot. Here, we're replatting a whole section of area. So I can give you, if I had time, I could give you 20 or 30 different plats and additions in Hayes, in addition to Ellis County, where they started out with a certain plat, they wanted to develop more of it, so they took parts of the old one, added them to new ones, became a new addition, part of a replat, part of a new addition. It's pretty standard procedure, but I think the key here, and again, Bill can tell me what he thinks, but there's a difference between subdividing a lot and replatting a whole area of land.
Okay. You agree, Bill?
Yeah, Bill Jeter, County Council, I do agree, and I also should note that Ellis County Abstract provided me with certificates of title in regards to the landowners of all the that are subject to that plat, and they have all agreed to that replat, so
Okay.
The splitting that lot is fine then, correct?
I think so.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
Well, it's not a split, it's a replat.
It's a replat.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hey, Tom, do you want to speak on the covenants as well? He's talking about 2 different covenants.
Well,
That would be your,
he's talking about Lot 3 again, the one that we've replatted.
yes.
That was part of the original one. There are, again, I'm going to say, there are several additions in Hayes where, again, there was an area platted with restricted covenants, conditions put on it, then replatted later, part of those. They basically are laying on top of each other, so the more restrictive would apply or not apply. But it's not unusual I've been doing this for 35 years, it's not unusual to find an area that has an old plat and a new plat on top of it. Not to say that somebody couldn't challenge it, I'm just saying it's not unusual,
Okay.
so.
Okay. Hey, Adam, another question for you.
Yes, sir.
I know originally we all looked at this last time you were here. Instead of that private cul-de-sac at the end, you were gonna run that road all the way down to Reservation Road. Just curious, how come you changed that? What was your thought process?
When I first, actually, the cul-de-sac was the original, and then I met with Mason and Bill, and then they had suggested we run the road.
Correct?
And then Bill, he had some additional concerns after our meeting, and it just was easier to do the original private cul-de-sac, so I'm all for easy. And Tom has some more, so.
He made a sorry again, Tom Wessinger. He made a comment about that, that lots, oh no, someone would be, yeah, never mind. That some of the lots would be subject to the HOA. Just to make it clear, the only, I'm sorry, get over here. The only lots that are gonna be subject to the HOA are these right here that are gonna be paying for maintaining that one right there.
That's
That
the
little
bottom.
cul-de-sac. So, again, he owns it, he's subjecting himself to the HOA, but just want to let you know that it's only partially. Partial.
That's all I had.
Okay. Any other questions?
You're going to talk about drainage?
James, you want to talk about that? That'd be great.
James Mice, Land Surveyor, Driggs Design Group. So our engineer, Christina Cook, prepared a drainage analysis. This is typical for subdivisions. We also do it on commercial properties. And so she did calculate the increased stormwater runoff on a 5-year storm event was 6 cubic feet per second, or a 100-year storm event was 11 cubic feet per second. So I am not an engineer. I am not the one who did the study, so I will try to speak as knowledgeably as possible about this. But if you go from a 5-year event to a 100-year event, that's a pretty big difference. Even some of the bigger storms in Hayes in the past 10, 15 years have not even come close to a 100-year. So you can see from a 5 to 100, the increase, it's not even a 50% increase on runoff. So generally speaking, the runoff will increase a little bit. That's because you're going to have hard paved surfaces. There's probably going to be concrete driveways and then the roofs. Everything else is going to remain where it's catching water. So you're going to have gravel road and then the turf yard. So there will be a slight increase. The only nice thing is we are downstream from anything in Hayes, so it probably won't help the issue on Reservation Road, but it's already an issue, and it may be exacerbated slightly, but I don't know. I can't put that into terms for you guys, so I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Any other questions, Dean?
I don't, not for him, no.
Yeah.
I do have one question, Adam.
Yes, sir.
The lots, I mean, how fast are they gonna go? I guess my concern is if some of them lots sit there for 5, 10 years, are you gonna keep them clean? I mean, mowed down, so it's at least attractive, you know, and not varmints coming into the other residents? And the second thing, what is our emergency plan when Reservation Road does flood? I seen it in 93, you could not drive down it, and there's other rains that you couldn't. Is there another way in and out of there? And I too live downstream from this, so I will be getting all this foreign water. We can pack up and get out. These people can't, including the whole development, not just yours. So I'm just wondering what kind of a emergency plan we have in case it does happen.
So to answer that, Neil, I believe there's 2 ways out, the east and the west. So there's 2 ways to go. And then as far as the lots, currently they're an ag lot. So what they've been in the past is what we'd probably keep them unless you, I don't know there's any issues with varmints currently. And I'm probably mispronouncing their name, but Tiernan's, we've been in contact, we've actually been in contact with almost everybody out here, one way or another. A lot of people have reached out to us. We've actually had quite a bit of support. So it's not all been terrible, but yeah, I didn't have any plans to mow them because they haven't been mowed before, and I don't know, if there's a varmint problem, we'll definitely take care of it. We definitely don't want to have any issues.
Okay. I guess I'm aware there's two ways in and out. You aren't gonna, if you come down Canterbury, you aren't going east on Reservation Road. In 93, it was up past this. I guess I'm just concerned if there was a exit going north that, we can get some kind of escape route. Because you weren't, in 93, you were not going down that road at all.
And I guess my response to that, about every 50 to 100 years, we do have a flood that I don't know that you can plan for. And if you have a suggestion, I'm pretty open-minded to any suggestions. I know I've talked to every professional I can think of, and that has not come up yet, but if that's something that you guys would like to see, I wouldn't say I wouldn't, I'd definitely consider it, so.
Yeah, because as it grows, there's more people there, and, we got to protect all of them. So that's.
As far as growth, this development can't really grow to the east. This would be the eastern limits of it, just because there is floodplain to the east of it, so there will be no lots. There's actually, on the plat, there's a heavy gray dashed line. That is the current, or that is the preliminary 1% annual chance that Division of Water Resources and FEMA are presenting on their new maps that have not even been published yet. So no development will occur to the east. And then the only development that could occur is further to the south of the cul-de-sac, which would be accessed off of Reservation Road itself. So that would be, I don't know how many more lots, six lots, maybe 8 lots.
I guess what I'm saying, yeah, you can possibly get out of your house and go east, but then when you go east, there's another draw you're not going to get through. So I'm concerned about that.
Don't they use Canterbury? Reservation Road to Canterbury?
At that time, you weren't getting down it, and even if you live on this far east part, when you start heading east on that road, there's that other dip or draw right there. That floods terrible also.
What did the current residents do, or what would they do?
I know. That's why I say the more we add up here, I would like to get something in place or play that we have a plan to.
Yeah, I don't have a solution
That
for the
money
current
is,
or the.
We as a county have to look at, because their only way is just to go to the north. I mean, actually, if they had to. Adam, you didn't buy that ground to the south of that cul-de-sac like them other 6 lots that he was just talking about. You don't own that property?
No, sir.
You do not, okay.
Commissioner Neal, I don't share as much concern that you have about the flooding issue with Reservation Road. You cite back in 1993. We had a lot of water in 93. And it's just to make a contingency plan for every place out in the county that might flood over 20 or 30 years. It is just really difficult to even do. And I think we're better to look at our emergency management system and see if they need to evacuate people, how are they going to do that?
Okay.
As opposed to try to make sure the road doesn't flood or something like that, unless we're going to just elevate the living daylights out of the road. So I know there's an issue there, but I'm not willing to let that issue block this development either.
Okay.
That's my perspective.
Adam, and on that private drive you're looking at on the south end, I mean, I guess you have a plan for as maintaining that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'd like to have Brendan come up, our Public Works guy.
Yes, could we hear from Brendan?
Brendan McKay, Public Works Director.
Yep. Brendan, first of all, Mr. Graham stated that there could potentially be another 52 cars a day driving those roads.
Yes, sir.
Do you look at that as being a serious maintenance issue?
The biggest issue we face out there currently is people parking on the road surface, so we're not able to maintain it
Mm-hmm.
correctly. I mean, when I went to drive the area out there earlier last week, in our truck, we almost had to pull the mirrors in because there was cars parked on both sides of the road, which is a violation of Kansas statute, but I can't enforce that. Until it is enforced, it's going to keep being an issue. In regards to the traffic, it's going to be like any other uncontrolled intersection. You yield to the right. I know if I live there, I'd like to see stop signs and stuff, but once again, that cost will be on the county to have that done.
Mm-hmm.
When, in my opinion, it should have been done, not by Mr. Prey, but previous developments. There wasn't a lot of future planning on these. They just keep adding up, and those issues compile and compile, compile, and then you, unfortunately, in this case, it was kind of dumped in your lap. And then if they don't go with it, then it's at the county's expense for that, and it just becomes an issue for our end.
Off of that traffic study, how many controlled devices was listed? Do you remember?
3.
Wasn't there like 6?
3.
Only 3?
Yes, just everything from Canterbury going east, those 3 intersections.
Because I was looking at that Logan and Clay Drive, and I can see where, I mean, if we had another X amount of vehicles, that could be an issue there for sure. Now, further north where there's a T in the road, that doesn't overly concern me, but Logan and Clay does concern me about a stop sign in that area.
Yes, sir. And are there speed limit signs posted out in the area?
No, I don't think so. Is there,
I can
Larry?
drive down there at 55 miles an hour.
I know.
I'm not saying I would recommend that to anyone, but. You couldn't drive 50. Oh, I know. I know. Legally, I could go 55 and he could just sit there and wave at me as I drove past him.
You wouldn't have any suspension.
Oh, I know, but that's one of the issues with developments, if it's not put in to the original development, is county road speed limit unless posted is 55 miles an hour. So based on that, any safety thing, objects, power poles need to be out of the safe zone for a 55 mile an hour zone, which is much greater than the 20 mile an hour zone. Same thing with fencing and curbing. You've got some pretty big things that are in the right of way that,
Well, when vehicles on the road, that doesn't help. If we're gonna go
No.
out there and grade and sand, we can't do our job.
and then the head walls on the culverts. It's hard to maintain your slope work there.
I mean, I think Adam's done a good job of putting this together this time and meeting the county specs.
Mm-hmm.
I think we as a county need to probably step up and put some controlled intersections in there. If not only speed limit signs, I think there needs to be some stop signs added in there too. I mean, just,
That would take another study, wouldn't it, Commissioner?
Correct.
well, I don't know if it would or not, because we've already got one done. Would it still take another one to put a stop sign in? Would it?
That wasn't part of their scope of work for the controlled devices on those 3 cross sections on Reservation Road.
So the present study they did, where would the signs be at?
Clay Drive, Logan Drive, or Josephine, Southview.
Southview goes east and west, so it'd be,
Southview's East and West Street.
Put it in the agenda because I knew would not remember the 3.
I was looking for that way before I asked. I don't find it.
Big Creek, Logan, and Josephine.
So at Logan and Clay, there'd be a stop sign? Or not?
No, it's,
this is Logan and Clay right here.
Yeah, Logan's.
Logan would, it'd be at Reservation Road and Logan.
Okay.
The stop sign,
Reservation Road and
yeah,
Logan.
so Reservation Road runs northwest to southeast down here.
Sure.
You'd have Logan, the stop sign on Logan, Josephine, and then Big Creek, and then you hit Canterbury.
So nothing in the development at all?
Nothing inside the development, just at the road, where it meets Reservation Road.
Well, that's something the
'Cause right-
commission could undertake on its own.
Well, I think we could. I think it needs definitely be added.
Because right now, currently, with how that is, if I lived in that development or was in the development, and I turn out here, someone's coming along, heading up towards Canterbury at 55, I can turn out in front of them. They're to yield to me because I'm on the right and an uncontrolled
Yep,
intersection.
correct.
And that's why it was a safety issue, was getting, for right now, it's just Logan, Big Creek, and Josephine was what the engineering study was. You've got 4 entrances to the west of Canterbury as well, that they're uncontrolled, but
I think we as a commission need to correct some of that.
Yeah, that's not,
That doesn't fall
that doesn't fall on Adam.
on Adam or any other developer. I think that's our fault probably there. I mean, it definitely needs, I mean, there's no reason you're gonna be driving down Logan Drive at 55 mile an hour. I mean, I
No.
know there's young families out there, and I mean, I would think a huge liability that we need to look at on ourselves. Brendan, looking at all this, are you satisfied with the drainage? I know we spoke today on it as far as the size of the culverts that were upsized and Adam agreed to put in and different things. Are you,
it'd be fine for the development. We'll have to look at Reservation Road ourselves.
yeah,
Just, I'm new here, but looking at historic imagery of the area, it's
well, the
Floods.
surface on Reservation Road for that quarter of a mile,
a sand and gravel, and there was out there, saw 2 vehicles
we
spin tires
spent a lot of
and
time
start
on it
making
over the
ruts.
past, but I know also that sometimes can be a racetrack for young individuals.
That's one of the things we've been talking about at the office, what we can,
Okay.
what are our options for Reservation Road to help the residents.
Because I know it gets very washboardy at times. It's
Sand and
pretty bad.
gravel,
And I
sand
mean,
and gravel,
that's
always washboards.
on the county as far as that goes. I mean, I know we maintain it a lot, but
Yes.
still, I think we need to address that issue somewhat also. I do wish that last cul-de-sac wasn't in there where that private one is, but if Adam doesn't own the ground to the south, it's pretty tough to extend the road. So I'm fine with that, doing that private. But yeah, I think the traffic study needs to happen. Stop signs on Clay and in that area through there, just to slow the traffic down.
Would you like me to contact engineering service for that?
Better ask the other two if they're in favor first. Are you guys good with that?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Because the more traffic's on there, the more building. it's
Especially if we're gonna, let's say we gain another 26 cars a day, that's 26 more liabilities possibly. And it may not happen for 10 years, but it may happen in 2. So I think we definitely need to address that issue. I think speed limit and stop signs, I think, would be sufficient in that study. What do you think, Darren? You good with that? Okay, he says so.
Okay.
You guys are all good with that?
I'm
Yes.
good with it,
Okay.
yes.
Take care of that?
Yes, I can contact engineering service for it. All right.
What do you think about approving the plat?
Mr. Jeter, any questions on the plat?
I have none.
It seems like Mr. Prey has
Well, we gave him
Taking
6
care
or
of what-
7 things to do, and I know he thought I was picking on him. I really wasn't, but I just wanted to follow county specs and make sure we were doing it right and not run into the issues we've ran into the past 10 years of sitting here that we've worked with, and I've worked with Tom Wassinger on numerous things, so I'm glad he's on board with that. As long as splitting that lot number 3 out, how we're doing or replatting it is fine. And Bill Jeter said that was fine also on that, so. No, I'm fine with it, especially with traffic study and Brendan, just looking at what we could do on them roads out there, I think would be a great addition. I know going by some of them houses, it's a little tough. So you'll take care of that. Thank you. Okay.
Would you like to make a motion?
Sure. Let me go back to that. Unless Neil has it in front of him. Hang on here.
It's right there, if that helps.
I've got it in front of me.
Hang on, I'm getting there. If you want to read it, I'm getting there. I was paging back up to it. Hang on. Or if you want, go ahead.
I move to approve Resolution 21-04 Big Creek Estates, second edition for plat development as actions listed below are completed and allowed chair to sign the plat document and dedication. I move to install recommended traffic control devices on Josephine, Big Creek, and Logan Drives.
I'll second
Okay.
Neil's motion.
We have motions and a second on both of them. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Hey, Brendan, how long you think it'll take to do a traffic study to where we can put speed limit signs in and stop signs, et cetera?
I'll get in contact with them to see when they're available to do it, but probably within 2 weeks, I would hope. Have the traffic study, about 2 weeks, I would hope.
2 weeks?
Believe so.
Okay. And that's something we can do ourselves once it's approved, correct?
We can put the signage up
Okay.
after you make the motion.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, the next item is the 718 Main and Law Enforcement Center HVAC system. Mr. Glassman.
That's the other thing I don't like about these agendas online. I like that paper one. I can flip through and get to where I want to be.
Good evening.
Evening, Joe.
Safe to take my mask off, right?
It's up to you.
Bill, you're doing well?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm cold. Not my kind of weather. We have done an analysis and audit for some of your buildings that we were requested to do. Of course, we do a lot of work in the county, in the schools, and the hospitals. We've done this type of analysis for probably close to a decade as a complementary procedure to clients and areas that we work in. So it's a preliminary analysis that tells you kind of where you're at in your building and if you need to make moves and if you have capital investments and so forth. It is no way intended to be anything beyond that because you have to follow a state statute when it gets to a procurement process, which we'll talk about as well if we get through this. And your attorney, I'm sure, will guide you on that as well. So I have with me tonight Logan Downey. Logan is a young man that has been with me for a number of years, and he is a graduate of Fort Hays State University, as I am, in technology department, and he works in my estimation engineering department, one of the young men there, and he did most of the study on this. And I think you've all received it, if I'm not mistaken. We have some problems in some of the buildings here that have been ongoing, and we've been working with Greg with that for years. And some of them seem to be getting a little bit more serious, and so it was time to probably do an analysis of the entire building, tell you what you got, so you at least knew as a governing body what you needed to do with the steps that are in front of you and the kind of expenses. And that, I'm going to let Logan just kind of tell you what he found in the audit. And then I'll kind of come back up and tell you maybe what you're looking at in expense, how you approach it, what statutorily, along with maybe Bill, what you need to do, and if you wanted to do something, what are the areas that maybe are more conservative, and what are the areas that are more liberal in practice, and what you can do with that. Would that make sense to you?
Sure.
Go for it.
You bet. Go ahead.
Logan, I'm going to let you go ahead and give the report.
Thanks for your time and meeting with us. I take it we've all had time to kind of glance through the report, get some questions. I don't want to read through this. I guess for the first building, you know, we had the admin center here. Been able to keep this equipment for quite a while past the ASHRAE, which is the American Society of Heating and Air Engineers, and they kind of set the standard, the code, basically the Bible for HVAC, and they give a rough lifespan to certain equipment, and that is based on proper maintenance and servicing. And most of the equipment here in this building has gone well beyond those years. So It's comprised of a train split chiller, some rooftop equipment, a lot of mechanical room equipment, and fan coil with coils in them scattered throughout. As you can tell from the breakout on page 1, all of those ages and approximate ages are listed, so we are well beyond the ASHRAE expected lifespan of those. In the mechanical room, most of the problems are compromised insulation on the piping, which can cause leaking, corrosion from the exterior of the pipe inward, which can lead to severe leaking, which is going to be a very big problem. That would be not a good thing to have, because it usually happens when we're not around in the middle of the night. So you want to keep from that. Corrosion is a big issue. The bases on those pumps have shown signs of water damage, corrosion, so we want to make sure that doesn't lead to future failures. Some of the recommendations for that: you have an existing 4-pipe. The piping itself seems to be in decent shape. Insulation can be replaced. There can be re-engineering, redesigning as another option that would take a little more time, a little more effort to go through and basically bring a new design to the building. Option 3, I call it a scheduled replacement. Fan coils, certain things that are of age can be scheduled to be replaced at certain times. Doesn't all have to be done at one time. And that we can go about that any way, that needs to be. Moving to the law enforcement center, I know there is a Hvac cooling tower that was installed outside with a indoor chiller barrel that I know is, due to recent upgrades to the facility, is not of adequate size. So that needs to definitely be looked at. Oversizing and or undersizing is highly inefficient, causes it to run too much, not run enough. You're losing dollars every day that thing's going if it's not appropriately sized. Another thing, mechanical room, insulation and piping issues also would need to be addressed before future issues could arise. All the air handling units, there's a few of them in there that are well beyond its age. They're pneumatic controls. Those things like to fail quite a bit, and with it being that old, parts would be hard to find. Again, recommendations are below, upgrade as we go. More high efficiency equipment is out there for replacement. The Ellis County Health Department, or the K-State Ag there on Main, that is comprised of mostly 4 Linux split systems, typically what we have in our homes, furnaces with condensers. Those are 29 years old, all of those, which about 18 to 20 is about the lifespan, which, like I said, we've been doing well with getting those well beyond those years. It's got adequate ductwork all throughout the attic space up there, so you could easily change those units out for new, make sure the ductworks could be cleaned, and that one's a relatively easy problem to fix without a full redesign. And like I said, the recommendations as to what can be done at that facility as well. And then after that is basically supporting photos and my documentation as to the problems, so that way you can see firsthand what I'm talking about. So I guess if there's any other questions regarding that, I know it's a quick spiel and run through, but I don't want to take too much of your time.
Let me go through where the real problem areas are that you need to zero in on, that you need to focus on, okay? Because you get a lot of information, and you get one of these reports from people like us that get real heady about engineering and all those kind of things, and then you go, well, what's this all about? So let's just zero in on what the problem is. Greg, would you like to join us? Because he knows firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
He tells me it all the time. But to zero in, I would take a building at a time if I were to look at this. And I usually tell people that when we look at analysis of buildings, to do it always by address. And then try to carve it out by the address and see what you got. So let's start with administration and what the real problem is, okay? Problem with administration is that you've lost multiple compressors on old equipment, and you've gone through a lot of expense, okay? Can the equipment maintain and continue running? Yes. The answer is yes. Is it being maintained? The answer is yes. Is it in compliance with the code to this date? Yes, it is R22, so when you have a failure, it will be over. EPA will not allow you to go back to R22. You have to go to a new refrigerant. Okay, that's safe. So at the point in time that it becomes condemnable, in other words, major failure, it's not just the compressor anymore. The whole unit is done. You don't have compatibility between one refrigerant and another. The whole system has to be coded from the factory to meet the obligation, okay? That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
You got a chiller in the basement over here, and it was probably put in the hole as the basement was being poured. Very typical. It'll be cut up to come out of here. It can come out, but it will have to be cut up to come out in pieces, compressors off and so forth and so on. It's got quite a bit of age to it. It's got condensers on the roof, as you notice when you drive up. How do you fix it? If you get to the point of fixing, why would you fix it? Well, one of them would be the failure of the product and maintenance, okay? Can't keep it up anymore. Second thing that you have to look at is efficiency. So are there other efficiency products on the market that you could put in besides a chiller? And the answer is yes. You could put in what's called a VRF system, which is that's what we put in the courthouse, okay? Some people like them, some people don't, okay? What I would suggest to do as you start looking at this, and you may use me all you want, and by statutory requirement, you have to do some bidding here. This isn't a gimme deal. So you have to we get engineers involved when we get involved, professional engineers. It's going to be really based upon the efficiency, the return of efficiency, and what you get back out of it. Okay, so you see where your capital dollars are. And I've always a proponent of using a piece of machinery as long as you possibly can, okay, as long as it's not killing you in energy efficiency. Okay, there's a point of no return where the energy efficiency just is so high on it. I mean, it's so low rather that you can't make the buck back on it, and it's time to go on to something else. There are new systems, by the way, that are the same system you have that are highly energy efficient. So the discipline in the industry has changed on many fronts. So you don't just have to change everything out. You can go back in and change parts and pieces. And we have done that very successfully, and a lot of other people have done that very successfully on many, many buildings because of the efficiencies that change. And so you can go to a very high efficiency chiller, for example. You can go to very high efficiency control systems that are workable. The problem with the control system you have in this building that Greg has right now is that he gets stuck because they were put in with a control system and a group out of Wichita that was commanding the control system, and even though you owned them, you didn't have the compliance to do what you wanted to do. So if somebody had a hot office, he was stuck. He had to go to Wichita. So what we're saying now is don't do that again. Take some interest in talking to people that have some background, such as us and other people, that if you start changing out control systems, put it in so that it's viable to local contractors that actually do service that are here, and for Greg, that he can do the work on them. And that's what we've convinced the school district here to do as well, for that same option. Is you don't want to get stuck with somebody that you're having an event and they're out of town and they're 300 miles away. Mm-hmm. So what really is the issue in this building? You got an old chiller. At some point in time, you need to replace the chiller. You need to replace the boiler because the boiler you have right now is probably about 70% efficient, meaning that 30% of the gas that you're buying for the boiler to burn, 30% is going up the flue, if not more, okay? And you never get 1 BTU of heat out of it, okay? We now have high-efficiency boilers that we're putting in hospitals and schools and lots of different areas. As an example, they're 96, 97% efficient. That's pretty cool. Only 3% is going out. You get your money back pretty quick on that stuff. And they're not as large, okay? So what would then, and from my standpoint, what would then be the concern as Logan has talked about? The concern is the inherent piping system capable of lasting another 30 or 40 years. And the best way to analyze that is by visual, which we did, looks pretty good. And then we take some tests, do some analysis tests of the water to find out if there's any mineral in the water or steel, any flaking, okay? It's called sloughing, that's what it's called in our discipline. And once you find that out and you're in good shape and you can do some chemical additives to make this inert, then usually that system, for the most part, with some minor repairs, will last for quite a while. You can get another 30 years out of it, 40 years out of it. So that's kind of what you're looking at in a building like the administrative center. The other problem he's got fan coil units spread out, and that's what gives you your zoning. So each room gets a fan coil unit, right? It's a blower coil and a thermostat. You got a thermostat right there, you got a blower coil right behind Ms. Dryling's neck up back here that's blowing in, okay? And so there's a fan coil unit. There's nothing wrong with the fan coil units that we can see. They need cleaning, okay? You could save that money, but they need new controls on them. Right, Greg? So you do a control package on that. So as you walk through this, you got a couple different ways to look at the analysis of a building like this. Do we just start yanking everything out and say, let's start all over? Or do it in parts and pieces that we can afford? So you could technically come in and do a control system in 1 year, and come back in the next year and do a chiller change out, and then do a boiler change. In other words, you can stair step this. We've done this very successfully in school districts across different areas, and engineers have worked with us on this as well. And again, you have to look at how you're going to go to market on this, okay? In the courthouse, you got fairly new systems in the courthouse. You have to correct me if I missed something here, Greg. Law enforcement, I'm sorry. Law enforcement. The law enforcement center, there was a 100 or 125 ton chiller, is that what it was?
80 ton right now.
80?
It was 50.
Okay. There was a 50-ton chiller that was in the basement. You hired a company that came in with a past administrator that put an 80-ton chiller in, that they tore part of the wall open to get it in. It was a package chiller. And then when you remodeled the courthouse and the law enforcement center, the engineering people that did the engineering did not take into account the almost new chiller that was in the basement. And they put in VRF. They covered you up. You already have this, and they already covered you up like this. You spent some more money, okay? Here's the problem. The 80-ton chiller never hits even 25% of its capacity because you put new equipment on top that you could have probably used the chiller for. So you have a chiller that's running at about maximum 20-25% capacity, if that. What's the downside of that? The manufacturer says you can't run it like that. You're not supposed to be doing that, because it doesn't get oil returned to the chiller, and you're going to wear it out prematurely. You haven't put a load on it. Now, here's the sadness. If it was up to me, and it was my building, and I was walking in there, I'd tear that chiller out and find somebody on the open market and say, get rid of the chiller, then put something in that fits, okay? That's going to be the trial and tribulation of this case. Can we do that? Can we find somebody? Is there a place to do it? It's a water-cooled chiller. The tower that's on it that Logan looked at has got pinholes in it. So the tower is technically on its last leg outside. Again, this is going to probably require further analysis and further thought. This is just a start. This is a preliminary. You got to kind of walk before you run, and you got to bite off what is the most important. And the person that can probably tell you where the biggest errors are and the biggest catastrophes are is going to be Greg. Okay? And our issue is to support him and whatever he wants to do and where he wants to go and how he keeps his buildings running. So he could probably speak to that better than I can. The building that's the health center on Main Street, right? Honestly, is a no-brainer. It's ductwork, it's residential equipment. You can change it anytime you want. You can bid it out. You can get it whoever you want in there. Put some low-grade controls on, and you'd be in great shape. And this thing it's in great shape. No big. Your two big issues are, this is the big issue right here, this building. Then the second biggest issue is the law enforcement center.
So just, and I know we're not talking bids here, but what is the price range on each one if And I know it all depends what you run into as you tear into it, but
Well, I was not prepared for that.
no big deal, I just didn't know.
It wouldn't surprise me that this building, but if you did the chillers and the boilers and the controls and then fix up the fan coil units, $1 million would not surprise me. It just would not surprise me. It could be under that. And those numbers you can get pretty quick. I mean, in estimate form, and typically what we do with people and people that we work for that just say, just give me a rough idea, is we put it in ballpark. You're going to be from here to here, depending upon what your selections are in that group, okay? And we can do that for you, and Will can write back and send that to you if you'd like to have that. And then you can record it and see what you want to do. And do the same thing for law enforcement and give you some ideas. The thing that I want you to remember is, and if you look at the pictures, they tell a story here. And that is, this is a preliminary procedure here. That's why it doesn't cost you a dime, okay?
Joe, I have a question for you. If let's just throw that $1 million cost out there. If that's what it would cost to do this administrative building, understanding it's only approximate cost there. Is it less expensive or more expensive if you stair-stepped it over 2 or 3 years?
Well, being a former commissioner myself, my answer to that would be, where are you going to use your money at? So if you have money that you're using in the proper position somewhere else that's doing a lot of good, then you have to put a value to that. And that's what I usually tell my clients. So a lot of my clients, I mean, it's pretty much 50-50. They'll say, just get it done. I want it over with. And we want to bring somebody in and do a lease purchase. Or we want to put it out for bids. Okay, either one are correct and have to be guided by your counsel. We also do about 50% where they say, let's take care of the big problems, but let's put it on a 4 or 5 year schedule. And we get a lot of people that do that. And so what you need to understand is when you do that, you have to make a commitment. Okay, and you are obligated to some commitments and not obligated to others. Again, your counsel has to guide you under state of Kansas law. But if you were to say to me, what would I do? I would say stair step it. Okay? But that requires a commitment. That means you can't change the chiller out year 1, and then year 2 say, I have a new commission, and therefore we're not going to go take care of the fan coil units, because then he's stuck. Okay, or the controls the 3rd year, or the boilers the 4th year. You have to have a rotating schedule that you know that every year you're either going to commit to the original bidder, or with increases, or you rebid every year, or whatever you do. We see some people that go in and say they have the best of intentions, and then we have a commission that changes and things go south in a hurry. And then the building goes right back to where it was. And what happens is the capital that you invested to repair now starts going south instead of being more of an asset to you, because nobody's taking care of it again. Does that make sense? Okay. So the purpose of this tonight is to have you start thinking about what you got to do. And really, Greg needs to get involved in this discussion. And he needs to be candid with you about what he's got and what kind of shape the building's in. Could you get to a point where you have major failure and be out and down? And the answer is yes, you could. You've had several compressor failures. And with each compressor failure on a chiller, there is damage done to the chiller. There's no question about that. From burning and acid and those kind of things that happen. If you have a major boiler break, for example, and you have a section that breaks in that boiler over here, you literally got 1 day to make up your mind, because it's got to get back on. Now you're in an emergency situation. So the reason for this is to get you into a planning mode, okay? So that you can make good decisions and lay out those decisions, and then have an emergency response, much like your emergency response people do in the county. If this happens, this is what we're going to do. If we're doing the chiller and the boiler goes south, this is the next step. You don't go back with that, we go back with this. Okay? Questions?
So the next step in the process would be working with Greg, of course, and
I would entertain, and we will do this for you, there's no charge to any of this. We'll give you numbers
Okay.
about where we're at, and we're not very far off. We just did Roosevelt School, which they're gonna award us tonight. We bid it against another competitor, but we were within 5 to 10% early on what that was gonna run. So our numbers are fairly accurate, but you need to have some numbers so you could see what you're spending, what you feel good about. You gotta, you just, some of this is gut reaction, and then some of it's planning. And once you do that, then we would probably give you some recommendations that you can follow or choose not to follow, whatever you like. And you would have to sit with your council and find out, do we want to bid part of this? Or are we in a position to do lease purchase? Because that's a different animal. Okay, lease purchase is a different animal. That's where you invite groups in that are capable of that bring their own engineer, their own design, and sell you a product, and they're not usually comparable. You have a wide band that you say, I'd like to do this, this, and this. Come in and tell us what you can do for us, and then you decide. And they give you a lease purchase over X amount of years, okay? And then if you go to hard bid, then we would come in and say, we're going to recommend 3, 4 different engineers that are work all over the state of Kansas. He'll prepare plans and specs, as you well have known, and you go through all the time. And he'll have a hard bid, and there'll be a performance bond, and you'll set that, and then you can do that again in steps, or you can do it all at once. Right now, you're at the preliminary level. Right now, you need feedback from Greg. You need feedback from us on some costs, and then you need to get down and burrow down in another meeting and say, here's what we want to do. I would not do all of them at one time. I suggest that you not.
Costs and options, with you working with Greg, I'd like to see the options 1, 2, and 3, if there is a 1, 2, and 3.
There is. There is.
I know
There certainly is, and that's one of the reasons for the analysis is that you get 3 different options usually. If there's an emergency in there, we will notate to you that this is an emergency situation, meaning within 1 year, you're facing a budget issue, okay? If it's something that needs to be addressed, we usually put it in an A, B, C option. So the B option is like you get up to 2, 2.5 years. C option is like 4 years, 5 years, and that's about as far out as we go. And then we'll tell you different options you can take. And you'll hear lots of different options, and all of them have costs, okay? But you have to tie the cost to the return on investment for energy dollars. But in my mind, the most important thing you do is make sure that the people that are in your building are comfortable. You can get sold a lot of things, and if somebody says, oh, they did all this, but we're still not comfortable, you spent all this money for nothing.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Have our maintenance fees been slowly rising on this equipment?
On this building is
Okay.
what we spend the most money
Yep.
on.
So this is the one we really want to
Yeah,
target.
this is the one.
target then.
As far as comfort, I would say the law enforcement center has the more comfort issues
Okay.
up there, but we spend more money down
Because
here.
that jail-
The law enforcement center, in fact, I will tell you that they have some issues with fresh air, minimum fresh air requirements that never got
System now.
resolved during the construction phase. That still needs to be addressed, and also controls. And so some of this pneumatic control stuff, that's ancient history. We don't do that anymore. It's digital. So you got to get something that you can actually work on, and we can help him with, or somebody else can help him with locally, that you're not relying on somebody out of Kansas City or Wichita. And those systems are prevalent. They're all over.
So you're saying now we would get a 90-plus efficiency?
Yeah, your chiller will come in, they come in at SCERs, but they're probably going to be, with the new green speed chillers that we see, we're putting a 200-ton in tomorrow at Intersys, coming out in Charlotte, North Carolina. The green speed chillers that are made by Carrier, Train, some of the rest of them, they're probably 30% to 40% better in some cases, because what they rely on are variable speeds, multiple compressors, okay? So you don't have one big lug coming on and running and unloading, so you got multiples, and even if you have failure, you get some redundancy out of it. The fans are all variable speed. So, yeah, they're much more efficient. The boilers, without question, we just don't put in very many boilers anymore that are not 96, 97% efficient. We just don't do it. It doesn't make any sense. And they're compact. You could take your boiler out and you have 2 boilers come in about the size of some of them are the size of a suitcase. Some a little bigger than that, but yours is going to be bigger than that. But there's no sense in doing something that goes backwards. You get high efficiency and you put it in, then you get your money back. Okay? I will report back to Greg. I'll set an appointment with Greg, and we'll visit. And then we can get you something. I don't know when your next meetings are. Are they every other week or monthly or what?
First 3 Mondays of the month.
First 3 Mondays of the month? Well, it won't be next Monday. But
sometime in March.
Another Monday after that or Monday after that, I'll have you some estimates that you can have.
Okay.
And then you can call me back and say, we want to talk some more about it. And that's how you approach this,
Sure.
about communication, okay?
Yep.
All right.
Sounds good, Joe.
Is this yours? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Sheriff, huh?
Okay, next will be the Sheriff's Office update. Scott?
Scott Brown, Ellis County Sheriff. Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Good evening, Scott.
Thought I should come speak with you. I haven't seen you yet, so. Hey, there's nothing major going on. I just want to open up communication with you first and say, as you know, you've all known me for a long time, and there's no topic that we can't discuss with either you call me individually and we talk about it, or you ask that I come to a commission meeting. So I just want to open that up first. So with that said, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we've got quite a few new people within the sheriff's office. And so I wanted to touch base and kind of let you know that there's been a little strategy change. One of the pluses is that I've been with the sheriff's office for a long time, and I've been able to sit back and analyze some of those and kind of think of some things that might change. But more importantly, the real reason those were able to change is we've had some people that have retired, and therefore it opened up some things and made some savings for us, and we're able to move some people around. So that's really the main reason for those changes. So as you know, Chuck White was a detective with the air. He's now the undersheriff. And then we have 2 detectives. We had 3 at one time. We switched to 2, and those detectives are Brian Shannon and Brad Rickey. We had a K-9 position slotted back in 1999 when I started the first K-9. We have not filled that. We've done a dual purpose type of thing, but we find that the K-9 creates a lot of overtime because it's one of those where they're called out at 3 in the morning and they may be out on a manhunt. So we felt maybe that would be best if we put that by themselves and we can control some of that overtime rather than on the patrol side. They're still falling under the patrol, but I'm going to throw it under investigations. And so administrative sergeant, you guys are aware of that. We took one of our road deputies and we slid him in there, Josh Gibson. He has done an outstanding job. That has afforded us the ability to handle walk-ins without pulling in our deputies from the road. So in that, he's worked some accidents and some walk-in reports. We also threw under him the court security, and of course, we have John and Tabitha that take care of that for us. And then we have 2 office staff, which we've had for a long time, Roberta and Wanda. So now, one of the major changes that we went with is we used to have 2 lieutenants. We had one in the jail and one in the on the patrol side. And in order to do some of the things that you're going to find below this, decided to take 1 lieutenant, and we were fortunate that we had a vacancy for a while there, and we did a test pilot run while under retired Sheriff Harbin. We tried this. We both discussed it, and we tried it. And we found that it worked very well because we shifted a lot of responsibilities that the lieutenants were doing onto our sergeants. And so we're distributing some of that workload rather than under one person. And so currently we have Tim Dinas, who's our lieutenant. He runs not only the jail but also the patrol, and it's shown to be pretty efficient. So the left hand knows what the right hand's doing, and sometimes we didn't have that before. And so now it's pretty spot on. We have 3 sergeants on the patrol side and 3 sergeants in the detention facility. And we have a total of 8 deputies and then 1 part-time. Now, with that said, what you may not be aware of is currently, when we bring people in or we are asked to do extra assignments and things like that, they almost always cost us overtime. And with the increase in the deputy manpower, because we slid some of those positions to our deputy positions, I'm hoping to control that. Now, I would love to give you guys some numbers right now, but with COVID and the way things are going, that is going to be a test that we're going to have to do. I can almost assure you, based upon my pre-numbers, that it will. But again, we don't know where COVID's going. We don't know where everything else is going. Secondly, I'm glad we had that discussion about the development in the county. So we're continuously growing our county. And with that, 26 more vehicles in that, which means, unfortunately, accidents. It means that we have more calls in the county. Consequently, we need to increase our patrol. Now, we're set at that staff right now. There is one more that I would like to add, or so to speak, we've been slotted for, but we haven't filled it. I want to wait till June or July, and I'll come back and speak with you about that, because I want to make sure our budget is okay and that things are in check, okay? Detention officers, we have 12 actual jailers within, and then we have 2 certified officers up there, again, which really helps us. There's some new hires, a couple of them that are coming in. I want to commend our commissioners for the work that you've done. The Ellis County Sheriff's Office, and I don't know about the rest of the county, doesn't have problems keeping people. And it's because of the agenda item at the end with possible raises and taking care of our employees. Secondly, the fact of the matter is it goes much greater than that. There's the package that you offer to our people. Thus far, we have not really had to advertise for anyone. I've got a possible hiring of two jailers, depending upon some tests that come back, because we've slid a couple of the jailers into road positions. We didn't advertise for those. People are coming in and filling out applications. So thank you, okay? Other than that, everything is smooth. We have a couple of part-time officers, which helps us out, and we typically run those on our transports so we can keep our full-time people back at the office and doing things. As our county grows, it's important that we understand that and we strategically try to plan for the future. The ultimate goal on the road is to have a sergeant out with a minimum of 2 guys out at all times, so we can do that. I can personally speak that the days of working domestics by yourself should never occur, okay? That's a dangerous situation, and we have the means with the switching of, sliding of manpower to make sure that doesn't happen. But I wanted to make sure you guys saw this and were aware of it, and you didn't think I was like adding a whole lot of people. This is sliding within our department and making it work. And I can also assure you that I sat down with Darren and we looked at some numbers before I even pitched this and came up with this idea. So anyway, that's all I have. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I don't have any questions, Scott, but I really appreciate you sharing this with us. It's very enlightening.
Absolutely, anytime.
I commend you for being here also, and keep up the good work, and look forward to change. New guys in town, the new sheriff is in town, so change is good.
This one combs his hair different than the last one, so.
True.
Thanks for what you do, and thanks for being here. Just like Mr. Anderson last week was here. I like that, getting a report from
all right.
people.
Just pass that on to your staff also. Us 3 really appreciate what you guys do in the county, so.
I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, our next item is DSNWK, an attached agreement for services.
Excuse me. This is, Darren Myers, Interim County Administrator. This is kind of an annual agreement that we sign within DSNWK. As the Commission is fully aware, DSNWK is an annual recipient of a subsidy that we give them. In 2020, in August, when the Commission approved the budget, you allocated $240,000 to DSNWK. And this basically puts that into a formal agreement that this is the amount that we are budgeted for in 2021 that will be dispersed to them, and the use of their services is within that agreement. Jerry Mashaw did want to apologize to the Commission. He had a prior obligation and could not be here tonight, but he wanted to express his gratitude to the commission for continuing to sustain the level of funding that you have for the DSNWK. And so with that, we're just asking that the commission chair be able to sign that agreement.
I
It
have
might have
one-
been all three of you,
I
actually.
have one question for you first, Aaron.
Mhm.
When we sign this agreement, does that bind us to that $240,000?
I don't know if it necessarily binds us to it. However, since when we do the subsidies, not necessarily every single one of them, depending on how much they are, we make a January and I believe July payment to them. So we've already processed that first 120,000 to them.
Because,
Budget.
yeah, I'm not opposed to it or anything. I just, in the event the sky was falling or something, that we wouldn't be bound to it.
I wouldn't say that we would be bound to it because budget restrictions like that, if something came in that we could cut any subsidy at any time.
Mhm.
So
Okay. Sounds good.
knock on wood that doesn't happen.
That's right.
That's right.
Going forward.
Yeah, I have no problem signing that agreement. Okay, next. Are we ready for next? We will have the 2021 salary adjustments.
So as the commission is aware, at about this time each year, we bring this to the commission's attention as to pay for county employees. As we got one new commissioner, Mr. Younger, over the last 5 years, we've implemented a multi-phase evergreen study that if we would have tried to implement back in 2015, or 16 was the first year, it would have costed well north of $1 million to fully implement that. At that time, the commission, as Mr. Hazelhorst is fully aware, decided that the best plan of action is going to take multiple years to do that. And to do that, it included spreading people throughout the scale through different steps based on their years of service. And we split those years of service into those 5 years. And then occasionally, if budget allowed it, there was cost of living adjustments to the scale as well. So there's different adjustments for different people at different times of the scale. And we did the best to implement that over 5 years without trying to leave any employees within that, within any of those gaps. As the commission is aware, last year we finalized that pay study and implementation plan. So now is the next step is to basically on an annual basis, as budget allows and the commission approves, is to move everybody within their pay grade one step to the right. That does not include a cost of living adjustment, but what that does is basically gives a pay raise to every employee as long as they are within outside their probationary period. So anybody that started work within Ellis County within the last 6 months or has been promoted within the last 6 months, they're in that probationary period. The plan that's for you tonight is for the step adjustments for everybody outside their probationary period. And in case the commission wanted to address it, it was also the COLA increase. And the COLA increase was based on the 2021 cost of living adjustment for Social Security. So that way, if the commission would approve, the 1.3% would adjust the scale to keep us within market, but also those employees as well as the elected officials that have to be done and their salaries are set by resolution, we would at least be able to give those other employees that 1.3% to keep it within market. I will point out, scroll down here a little bit, that we did have $150,000 budgeted for the salary increases in 2021. And the proposed pay, if we started that on that pay period, would be under budget at roughly $142,000. I know within your packet, there's another statement in here in regards to the county attorney's office. Mr. Anderson and myself has worked a couple hours last week to come up through some different plans on how he would like to proceed. As the commission is aware, we set aside $146,000 in a different line item within the general fund to allow him funding to hire additional personnel. We just ran through some estimate numbers on what he was looking at, and he is still in the planning purpose, and at this time does not feel that he would like to request that extra $59,000 for that position. So before you tonight is just the plan for the step adjustments and COLA adjustments for the $142,468 that would go into effect the first pay period come March.
Mhm. Okay, when Darren first approached me about the salary and the Budget Committee proposing the two-step, or the one-step increase for everyone, I thought that was absolutely necessary because we have to start getting some distance between step one and the other employees. We can't have everyone bunched up all the time on step one. But also, I questioned Darren right away about a cost of living increase, because the one thing, Commissioners, I don't want to get back to in 3, 4, or 5 years is to say we need to do another salary study because our salary scale has become outdated because we have failed to look at cost of living increases. And so I wanted him to run the numbers regarding the cost of living increase. I know last year our employees didn't get a cost of living increase until approximately the middle of the year. So they waited a long time for one last year. And I think through some of the tough years, there were years employees didn't get any kind of an increase, and we had some of our real lean years a while back. So it's definitely due. I think we all three agree that our employees are some of the best. The only thing Ellis County has to offer people is its services, and our employees provide the services. Many of those positions require technical skills, and all of them require a level of social graces as they have to interact with the public. And I'm very much in favor of these salary increases as you present them, Darren. Commissioners?
I am too, Butch. I know I was part of that Evergreen study, however long ago that's been now, 6 years ago or so, and we never implemented it, and the money we spent on that and some of them other studies, we put it on the shelf and it was money thrown away, as Bobby knows, she was here through that. It was a stack of paper about that thick that was worth nothing at the end of the day because we never did nothing with it.
Sure.
So I think this is a great time to do it. I mean, we budgeted it. It's coming in under budget, which is great to see for once. And we need to take care of our employees. I mean, they've encountered a lot this past year with COVID, and so is the whole community. And I think we really need to take care of our employees. Our new sheriff just alluded to that about the turnover in the sheriff's department we don't have. And there's other organizations have a lot of turnover, and we're keeping our people, and Scott's employing good people, and Sheriff Harbin did the same thing, and we have people wanting to come work for us, so we want to keep that tradition going. So
Sure.
I'm in favor of it, Butch.
Commissioner Younger, any comments, questions?
I too am in favor of it. Darren, you've done a great job with everything, and so with all the other employees. I've watched it over the years, seeing a lot of people. We were being a training center, and they would leave. If we don't make it inviting for them to stay, they are going to leave, and we start all over again. So I am in favor of it. Some of the stuff you hear out on the street, I would encourage all the public to come here and look at some of the stuff and see why we favor it, and put theirself in that position. And their clothes cost the same as ours, or food, so that's why I'm in favor of it.
Okay.
I do want to point out one thing. I think, Butch, you did mention it about the Wage and Benefit Committee. Their original plan to the commission was just for the step raise, as our pay and adjustment policy says. So I would like to commend their work in taking the understanding of the commission that we don't always have all the funds with public taxpayers' dollars to give everything that is always asked for. And with them realizing that, realizing what our policy was, accepting that and only asking for what it was, and not expecting that COLA adjustment. I would like just to express my appreciation to them for being understanding of the situation sometimes too, and especially over the years on getting that study implemented. So I just wanted to take that moment to thank them for their work as well.
Mhm. Well, fellow commissioners, I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 21-03 to adjust salaries for elected officials and to approve the attached general budget adjustments for 2021 salary adjustments starting the March 7th pay period.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. County Administrator reports. Darren.
I only have one tonight. We received our first payment from the state. We submitted the request of, I believe, four or six applicants for the CDBG-CV funds. That is a pass-through grant from the state to us, to local businesses. It was, I believe, $19,000. We received that payment, and we've gotten the clerk's office the W-9s today, so we can start processing those payments and get those funds out to the businesses starting, well, the checks will be mailed out next week. We're still waiting on the second payment, which was roughly about another $92,000 for some more businesses that got us their paperwork and their W-9s. So we're starting to receive that money from the state for the CDBG-CV grants that we received, and we're trying to get that out to them as quick as possible. But part of that's just the time that we have to request information from those businesses that requested funding and getting it submitted to make sure we have everything in place before we do the pass-through. Good news there is that we're on the back end of the CDBG-CV funding and getting some more money back out to our community. That's all I got.
Okay. County Commission reports. Commissioner Younger.
I have nothing.
Okay. Commissioner Hazelhurst.
All of you probably have read the emails from Jason Kennedy, and I think Darren might have sent one too, but I also sit on the KAC board. House Bill 2142, correct, Darren? Yes, I know it is. It's, how that is worded, that could affect every county in Kansas financially, and it would be huge. That would take every business, just say in Ellis County, that felt they had any COVID-19 financial loss, we'd have to refund all of their property tax dollars 100%, correct, Bobby? Is that's how it's worded?
This year within our budget year.
Yeah. So that would hit us hugely if this is passed, so I encourage you all to call Barb Wassinger and Troy Waymaster and Ken Rogers and Rick Billinger. I'd encourage you to call all of them and just let them know how against you are of this. I mean, it's unbelievable why they'd even bring that up, to throw it back on the counties.
Aren't the legislators aware what that would do to counties?
They are, but it was, I think it starts tomorrow. It's debated, I think start tomorrow on the floor. So if you have a chance, please call them, email them, send them a text. That would be devastating to every county in Kansas, not just ours. It'd be every county in Kansas.
Absolutely.
Hard, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all I really have. Thank you.
Okay, and I have no report. And I will make a motion to go into executive session for approximately 30 minutes to discuss a non-elected personnel matter as it relates to administrative search. And those attending will be the Board of Commissioners and Darren Myers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that'd even be an option. I've been reading it. Bobby probably has too. I suppose you've been reading that too, or?
I glanced at it today. I got something from our
face.
You're late for supper.
And I already called Jeff, I said, go ahead and eat.
What do you have, and I'll be over.
Roast,
That works.
yes.
Okay, there's no action, and the meeting is adjourned at 7:44.
It is 7:44, isn't it?
Yes.